No country has ever passed 30% enrichment and not built a nuclear bomb. Iran is at 60%. So whether you agree with the intervention or not, you do have to accept the factual premise that in this instance, Iran with 60% enriched uranium would be the first country to do that and not develop a nuclear weapon. You want to put that much faith in Iran?
Okay, but here's the thing. You have to concede that you're speaking in likelihood, not fact, and not truth. Yeah, okay, no country has passed 30% enrichment and then not made a bomb. But Iran's been at 60% for the longest. For years they've been there. And by the way, this is something he's not going to mention. We brokered a deal and cut the contract so Iran would bring that down to 3%. Donald Trump ruined that and he brought us to war in Iran. It was actually handled by Barack Obama. He brought it down to 3%, which could only power plants and other things, but could not be utilized for deadly force. So this argument kind of falls flat on its face, as well as the fact that if they wanted to make a bomb, and if you know anything, you would know this, they would have made one some time ago. But they didn't. And ever since the 90s and the early 2000s, what have the think tanks been motivating our politicians to think? Well, it's actually that Iran is a week away from a bomb. They're 5 months away from a bomb. They're a year away from a bomb. It's always a different spin. If you've been paying attention to the news and the rhetoric on Iran, it's always been they're close to this bomb, this catastrophic bomb that will deliver destruction like we've never seen before. And they never actually made that bomb because they have a religious ruling from their previous leader who was killed that they cannot make a bomb. Now he's dead. Now they might make a bomb. But who killed us? Who killed him? Us. The premise in which he's trying to argue from is somewhat factual. Yes, I will concede no country has gotten to that level of enrichment and then not made a bomb. But again, inherently, your standpoint, your position fundamentally is kind of omitting the bigger picture that we not only address this issue, but they're enriching to that degree because we have forced them to do that in gradual escalation from the 90s onwards, as well as Israel. And this is what it always is, right? It's always this, I'll give you this fact and I'll leave that one out. But we've got to paint the whole picture very clear, top to bottom, because if we don't, well, then we're going to seemingly support this war. And of course, if you've been under a rock, this war has been destructive for the United States and the global world, or the global oil economy, the world as a whole. So it's very important to pay attention to people like him or others who try to push this narrative because, again, they always just find a way to step around the biggest piece of context that will lead you to find that we are actually at war with Iran for different reasons other than their nuclear bomb.
Iran wasn't close to getting a weapon. It's all a lie, something.
There is a good basis of belief within the expert community that Iran does not have the expertise.
Mind you, Chris Cuomo is quoting the expert community because uranium is not just this easy topic to dive into. It's actually highly complex. And so a lot of people try to talk about this. No, you have to look at what the experts are saying, especially from the intelligence community and others. But overall, all of the experts, people who have some sort of skin in the game when it comes to nuclear weapons, enriching uranium, centrifuges, all this good stuff, they will tell you that Iran has always been relatively close to a nuke, somewhat, but never actually decided to assemble or build one, and always left a gap that with our aggression decreased. So U.S. aggression incrementally but surely decreased that gap from a non-concerning level of enrichment all the way to weapons grade. We decreased that gap via our aggression, via our serving of Israeli interests, and of course Israel themselves starting several conflicts in the region and encroaching upon other borders and threatening their sovereignty. There's no secret there. And this is what, by the way, Iran says themselves. Everybody always wants an explanation as to why Iran does what they do, why the IRGC has this program. Well, they'll tell you if you pay attention to the media over there, if you pay attention to their parliament speaker, if you pay attention to all of the head officials, they say why they're doing these things. And they make it abundantly clear. Did you see the president's letter to Donald Trump after he threatened to bomb all their power plants? He addressed every single point from U.S.-Iranian history back from 67 till now, or 79, sorry, till now. And every single time he made a point, you saw a parallel between what I'm saying and what he said. That doesn't mean I'm IRGC, but that means that the United States has kind of foiled them into this corner that has left them no choice but to kind of enrich and kind of hedge a bomb. But that's what they were doing, is hedging. That's a political strategy. But never were they actually going to make one. The only time the threat became real, the only time the hedging became no more hedging and an actual race to a nuke was probably back in June when Israel struck them out of nowhere. And then we had to save them from their fire because the 12-day war was not looking good for Israel.